I plainly perceived the loosening of the bandages. I knew that in more than one place it had already been severed, and with a more than human resolution, I lay still. Nor had I erred in my calculations, nor had I endured in vain. I at length felt that I was free, and the surgical hung in ribbons from my body. But the strokes of the pendulum already pressed upon my bosom. It had divided the serge of the robe. It had cut through the linen beneath. Twice and again it strung. The sharp sense of pain shot through every nerve. But the moment of my escape had arrived. At a wave of my hand, the deliverers hurried tumultuously away, and with steady movement, cautious, sidelong, shrinking and slow, I slid from the embrace of the bandage, and was beyond the reach of the scimitar. For a moment, at least, I was free! Free, and in the grasp of the Inquisition. I had scarcely stepped from my wooden bed of horror upon the stone floor of the prison, when the motion of the hellish machine ceased, and I beheld it drawn up by some invisible force through the ceiling. This was a lesson which I took desperately to heart. My every motion was undoubtedly watched. Free, I had escaped one death, one form of agony, to be delivered unto worse than death in some or other. But with that thought, I rolled my eyes nervously around on the barriers of the iron that hemmed me in. Something unusual, something had changed, which at first I could not appreciate distinctly. It was obvious had taken place in the apartment, for distinctly minutes of a dreamy, trembling abstraction. I busied myself in vain, unconnected conjecture. During that period I became aware, for the first time, the origin of the sulphurous light which illuminated the cell. It proceeded from a fissure about half an inch in width, extended entirely about the prison in the base of the walls, which thus appeared, and were completely separate from the floor. I endeavored, but of course in vain, to look through the aperture. As I arose from the attempt, the mystery of the alteration in the chamber broke at once upon my understanding. I have observed that, although the outlines of the figures upon the walls were sufficiently distinct, yet the colors seemed blurred and indefinite. These colors had now assumed, and were momentarily assuming, a startling and intense brilliancy that gave to spectral and fiendish portraitures an aspect which might have thrilled ever firmer nerves than my own. Demon eyes of a wild and ghastly vivacity glared upon me with 1,000 directions where none had been visible before, and gleamed with the lurid luster of a fire that I could not force my imagination to regard as unreal. Even while I breathed, there came to my nostrils the breath of a vapor of heated iron. A suffocating odor pervaded the prison. A deeper glow settled in with each moment in the eyes that glared at my agonies. A richer tint of crimson diffused itself in the pictured horrors of blood. I panted. I gasped for breath. There could be no doubt of the design of my tormentors. Almost unrelenting, almost demoniac of men, I shrank from the glowing metal to the center of the cell amidst the thought of the fury of destruction that impeded. The idea of the coolness of the well came over my soul like a bomb. I rushed to its deadly brink. I threw my straining vision below. The glare of the enkindled roof illumined its inmost recesses. Yet for a wild moment did my spirit refuse to comprehend the meaning of what I saw. At length it wrestled its way into my soul. It burned itself in upon my shuddering reason. Oh, for a voice to speak! Oh, horror! Oh, any horror but this! With a shriek, I rushed from the margin and buried my face with my hands, weeping bitterly. The heat rapidly increased, and once again I looked up, shuddering as if with a fit of ague. There had been a second change in the cell. Now the change was obvious in form. As before, it was in vain that I endeavored to appreciate and understand what was taking place, but not long was I left in doubt. The inquisitorial vengeance had been hurried by my twofold escape. There was to be no more dallying with the king of terrors. The room had been square. I saw that 2 of its iron angles were now acute, too consequently obtuse, the fearful difference quickly increasing with a low rumbling or the moaning sound. In an instant the apartment had shifted its form into that of a lozenge. The alteration stopped not here. I had neither hoped nor desired it to stop. It would have clasped the red walls to my bosom as a garment of eternal peace. Death, I said, any death but that of the pit. Fool, might not I have known that into the pit was the object of the burning iron to urge me? Could I resist its glow? Or even that? Could I withstand its pressure? And now flatter and flatter grew the lozenge, with a rapidity that left me no time for contemplation. Its center, and course its greatest width, came just over the yawning gulf. I shrank back, but the closest walls pressing me relentlessly onward. At length, for my seared and writhing body, there was no longer an inch of foothold on the firm floor of the prison. I struggled no more, but the agony of my soul found vent in one long and final scream of despair. I felt I tottered on the brink. I averted my eyes. There was a discordant hum of human voices. There was a loud blast as of many trumpets. There was a harsh grating as of 1,000 thunders. The Fury's walls rushed back, and an outstretched arm caught my own as I fell, fainting into the abyss. It was General LaSalle. The French army had entered Toledo. The Inquisition was in the hands of its enemies. This has been The Pit and the Pendulum by Edgar Allan Poe. Good evening.
The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay. The shadow knows.
Next week, same time, same station, Blue Coal, America's finest anthracite, will again present another thrilling adventure of the shadow. Be sure to listen, and be sure to burn Blue Coal, the solid fuel for solid comfort.